How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck, and I'm glad it's finally fall. It feels like criminal that it took an entire week of October to not be 80 degrees. I got my jacket on, I got my hoodie on, I got the windows open upstairs. I'm feeling great. I've been watching a ton of horror movies, playing a ton of Dying Light and other horror games, so I hope you're having a great start to October too, especially if you love Halloween and the whole season as much as I do. In today's video, I've got two topics to cover, starting out with yet another Steam Deck beta that adds in a ton of more bug fixes. And after that, let's talk about how when it comes to the optimization wars, it really looks like Valve is winning because we have yet another native Steam Deck game, and we have a game that got Steam Deck specific settings right after it came out because people were asking for them, and that's good. Massive shout out to Raycon for sponsoring this video and supporting Deck Ready. It's Raycon's anniversary, and to celebrate the occasion, they wanted me to tell you about the Essential Open earbuds, which are 30% off. I've been using these earbuds for a little bit now, and they are great for everything I do in the day, whether it's editing a video, playing some games on my Steam Deck, or of course going to the gym to work out. These are the best earbuds I didn't know existed because they sit outside your ear canal, which lets you hear everything that's going on around you without losing any sound quality. And a huge plus for me is that they're very light earbuds, but they also have a really secure fit so they won't fall out. And I was honestly blown away by the battery life. The earbuds themselves have an 8-hour charge, and the case provides an extra 36 hours, so they're not going to die on you. And you knew this was coming. The biggest win with Raycon is that they offer the same premium audio quality as the big brands for half the price. And they stand behind their product. They have over 3 million happy customers, and there's a 30-day happiness guarantee, so there's no reason to overpay. I genuinely enjoy using these earbuds, and I think you will too. Help support Deck Ready by clicking the link in the description or going to buyraycon.com/DeckReadyYTOpen and get 30% off the Essential Open earbuds. Once again, huge shout out to Raycon for supporting Deck Ready. Let's get back into the video. All right, with the intro out of the way, let's get into the first news story here, which is about the latest Steam Deck beta. I cut out the updates that I either didn't understand or didn't really think were that big of a deal, so this is just the heavy hitters. Starting out with a new issue with Unity. I don't know if you've seen this, but like games are getting pulled from stores because Unity has like a critical exploit bug hack thing where you can get hacked if you play Unity games. So they baked in a feature where if it detects any weirdness with a Unity based game, the Steam Deck won't allow the game to launch because I guess the game needs to completely launch for the bug to take hold. So that's good that they've added this in beta. I hope this doesn't stay in beta long because having your stuff hacked and rendered unoperable would be really crappy, especially with how long the RMA process takes on the Steam Deck. Like, it's just a headache you don't want to deal with. So it is cool to see that Steam itself, like this works on desktop too, has a little bit of a firewall put in place to like look over Unity based games to make sure none of them have that weird hackiness going on. I'll look into it more, and if it justifies a full video, I'll talk about it in the future. But yeah, there's like a hack with Unity games. Unity's been going through it over the past year, man. Like, it's crazy. The next fix is for an issue that was actually affecting me, and it has to do with the DualSense. I use the DualSense as my default controller, the 30th anniversary DualSense Edge. I love it, even though the battery life is terrible. I switch between that and the 8BitDo Ultimate 2 controller. I have a lot of controllers. That one's just my favorite. And the latest Steam Deck update introduced a bug, and it works on my Bazzite PC too. Like, the bug, it doesn't work. It just like happens where when you connect to DualSense, sometimes when a game launches, it can like totally crash the operating system and send you into a restart, which is obviously annoying. And it only happens when I'm trying to show off my super cool SteamOS Bazzite PC upstairs. Like, my wife's cousin's husband came over and he was like, "Oh, is that your new PC?" I was like, "Yeah, check it out." Connect my DualSense, crashes Steam. Totally sucks. So it's good that they fixed that very quickly because it was introduced in the last update. The next thing they fixed is for people out there who have a new Steam Deck, like you just bought an LCD and you already have your emulation folder all organized and filled out with tons and tons of games. If you want to use EmuDeck to add them all as non-Steam games, if you have too many games, like tons and tons of games, it would crash Steam and cause a weird restart loop just like the DualSense thing did. They say they fixed that, but I've seen this one pop up a lot over the years, so like be careful. I think it's better to just start fresh and then pay for EmuDeck's Patreon because it comes along with the save transferring feature that's automatic. Once you set it up, you just need Chrome to get it all operational, and then you click through 2 windows and it's done. I've used it successfully with Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker between my Steam Deck and my Bazzite PC. That game is so good still. The weird thing is it was made at 20 FPS. It was made to run at 20, and if you increase the frame rate through hacks, it breaks the game. You can emulate the 360 or PS3 ports of the game, but that's a lot more difficult, so I'm just living with it at 20 FPS. Even at 20 FPS, FPS, it was animated at 20 FPS, so it's still playable, and having the saves transfer back and forth is awesome. I would start fresh with EmuDeck on deck because once you add all those non-Steam games, sometimes it can crash Steam, and they've said they fixed it before and clearly they haven't. I'm glad they put this next one in the changelogs because I noticed it and I couldn't tell if it was placebo or not, but on my Bazzite PC and my Steam Deck, the performance drop off when using the built-in Steam recording has not been great. It used to be really good. Like you couldn't even tell the difference when you were recording a game, and then something they did with a recent update kind of made it so you just get like 5 or 6 FPS less than you get when you're not recording a game. And weirdly enough, it was more noticeable on my Bazzite PC. Like when I was trying to record Dying Light the Beast, it would drop to like 51 to 52 FPS, and when I would turn off recording, it would shoot back up to a solid 60, like hard lock 60 with no frame drops or stuttering. Then I got a Bazzite update that I guess included this feature because it works fine now. Like I set it to the maximum recording quality. I recorded for over an hour straight to my SSD. Didn't see any performance drop off, so I'm glad they're continually improving the Steam recording feature. I'm glad that they turned that around because when it launched, it was rough. It didn't really work right, and you know, there was no really better option to record games on the deck. And now, like, I've gotten a bunch of Dying Light clips while I play that game. If you're someone who's using a Windows ARM machine, which I don't even know if there are any out there, you might not know that Steam is ending support for the app at the beginning of January in 2026. So they've added an end of life notification. I don't really know what you do there. Like, I'm sure some hacker will figure out how to make an open source 32-bit version of, you know, Steam for Chromebooks and Windows ARM chip devices, but it's weird. Like, I don't know how many people are playing on those devices, but I guess it's nice to have an end of life notification. And finally, if you're playing Battlefield 6, you're going to be bummed out to know that you need a secure boot support on your PC. And I'm kind of surprised how many people have it turned off. Like every PC I've ever owned has secure boot on by default. And even like the ROG Ally, if you want to replace Windows with SteamOS, the first step to do is to turn off secure boot. So it comes like default on so many different devices out there, but some people have had it off and it's been destroying their Battlefield 6 experience. Now they've added in the ability to see if it's on in Steam. Like when you go to your hardware properties and it shows your whole spec sheet for you, all the different parts in your PC, you'll see if TPM/secure boot is on or off, and that can be quicker than figuring it out through Windows, because figuring out any information in Windows is just a massive pain in the butt. It's like somehow rivaling Mac OS with ruining its search function. If you guys don't use Macs, I do for editing. It's like my main editing computer is my MacBook Pro, and the last year upgrade to Mac OS just destroyed the search function. It worked totally fine. Like I used it to find all the trailers I use in these videos in like 2 seconds. Now it just doesn't work. It's totally random. You have to match casing, which sucks. So like if a game name trailer name has a capital in it, you have to remember that. It's just like annoying. So like, yeah, Windows search sucks. So it's good to know that Steam built this feature in to make it just a little bit simpler. And yeah, this is in beta now, and they have been extremely quick about jumping these things over from beta into stable. Again, as always, I'm glad for all the bug fixes. That helps with mass marketability. Like I was just playing Hunt Showdown yesterday with my friends who don't play a lot of hardcore games, and like every time you get out of a Bounty Clash match now, it switches it back to Bounty Hunt, and we took free hunters with no loadouts into so many Bounty Hunt games last night because it's annoying to have to remember to flip it every time. Those little things matter. Like it was definitely frustrating them. They powered through it, and I thank them for that because Hunt's my favorite game, but like that stuff matters. So it's good to see Valve continually nipping bugs, and also it's good to see them do it when they've got other devices to support now, like the Legion Go S and the ROG Ally and the Ally X on the Xbox, and like eventually the Xbox Ally X, and like blah blah blah. Like they're not wasting time on every handheld to like let the main one, the Steam Deck, suffer, and I appreciate that. But yeah, with the Xbox full screen experience coming out, I was curious if developers were going to pick a side between, you know, optimizing their game for the Xbox ROG Ally or optimizing their game for the Steam Deck, because even though they are largely similar devices kind of going for the same audience, they're very different in the sense that they use completely different operating systems. So like, yes, it would benefit the ROG Ally if devs optimized games for the Steam Deck because the Steam Deck is lower spec, but I don't really think it would work in vice versa because the ROG Ally Xbox X Edition is so much more powerful than the Steam Deck. And it's looking like developers are kind of choosing the Steam Deck, which isn't really surprising because there aren't that many ROG Allies out there, and there definitely aren't going to be millions of Xbox ROG Allies out there at launch because they've sold through their pre-orders. And from what I've heard, it seems like the Xbox full screen experience is coming in hot alongside the hardware. So like, you know, it's interesting to see these developers choosing a side a little bit and going for Valve. The first way it seems like they're choosing Valve is through Steam Deck native builds. We of course got Baldur's Gate just a couple of weeks ago. Then we got Chronos: The New Dawn right after. And now just a week later, House of Tesla, which is a new point and click indie game, just got a native Steam Deck build. I don't know why this is all happening at the same time. Like maybe Valve did a video series or something and sent it out to devs to let them know that it's easy to port a game over to Linux. And it's interesting to see it happening because that was the initial goal with SteamOS 2, like the original SteamOS that came out with the Steam machines. They wanted to get the market of Linux bigger so that they could convince developers to make native Linux builds. And some developers did buy into the whole process, but it just didn't really go anywhere. And that resulted in the creation of Proton. But it is interesting to see that a lot of these native Steam Deck versions like Chronos, Baldur's Gate, and now House of Tesla, they look and run better on the Steam Deck when you're using that Steam Deck native build. So I'd love to see more of these. Like we've got the full gamut here between the biggest AAA game of the last 3 years with Baldur's Gate 3, a brand new survival horror I would call AA game with Chronos: The New Dawn, and now an indie game with House of Tesla. So every tier of developer is starting to build Steam Deck native builds. And again, I'd just love to see more of that. It'd be cool to see them launch with these and start advertising it. And I'd assume companies like Sony or Square Enix would be the first candidates to do that because both of them are weirdly sort of like friendly to the Steam Deck. Like when they launch games on Steam, both of them and Capcom to some extent, they make a big deal out of having their game Steam Deck verified to the point where they make art for it. And when it comes to Sony, they make like as far as third parties go, the most of the custom boot intro videos of any developer out there, or publisher is what I meant to say. So yeah, if they took it one step further and started making native Linux builds, I mean, that would be awesome. It doesn't really matter that much because I don't think many people out there are going out of their way to buy or build Linux PCs. And Proton is generally so good. It seems like a lot of these games that are getting the native builds just run worse with Proton, so it's easier to port it over to Linux instead of fixing those issues specifically for the deck. But it is cool to see a viable new option 3 years into the Steam Deck's life cycle, and it is cool to see more games getting native Linux builds. I'm not like fully Linux head yet because, you know, like there's so much more to Linux that I have to learn than what you get in Bazzite and SteamOS, but I'm dipping my toe in the water. I don't feel like I could replace my MacBook and edit all my videos with Linux just yet because I'm an insane person who uses Final Cut Pro X, but maybe I'll get there one day, and seeing games get native Linux ports kind of pushes me in that direction. And with all these big Windows devices coming out like the Legion Go 2 and the Xbox ROG Ally X, it's cool to see developers kind of picking a side a little bit and going in Valve's favor. The second way is through Steam Deck graphics presets. These I would like to see become much more prevalent. There's really no excuse to not just run the game on a deck. Like for a studio, a $400 purchase is not the end of the world just to see how your game runs on deck and then dial in the settings and ship a Steam Deck preset. I think that would be awesome. But now we've got a new indie game called The Bleakest Keep that's $10 that just got a post-launch update to make text easier to read and come along with the graphics preset for the Steam Deck. I'm glad I found out about this game because it seems perfect for Halloween. It's like a night-themed third-person roguelike game that has kind of PS1/N64 inspired graphics. It's going for that horror medieval look and feel. It looks really fun. It doesn't have a ton of reviews on Steam yet or even YouTube, but Steam Deck HQ said they've been playing through it and they've been having a great time. Again, I'd like to see much more support in terms of Steam Deck graphics presets. There's more than enough decks out there. It's been proven time and time again that Steam Deck people are a little different because it's kind of like the Switch, where like putting old games on the Switch would see increases in sales of those games because people just love playing games on the Switch. I think the same thing goes for the Steam Deck, if I'm being honest with you. So like there's really no downside to just buying a deck for your studio, booting up your game, and if it can run acceptably, just making a Steam Deck graphics preset, because that helps the ROG Ally, that helps the Legion Go, because they're all roughly in the same-ish realm, and I'm sure they'd end up using the same graphics presets even if you were using 1080p on Legion Go or ROG Ally. But yeah, it's cool to see this keep happening. Let's get more native Linux builds. Let's get more Steam Deck graphics presets. We just got to keep asking for it, which is why I keep covering it. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.